What's up, cool cats and kittens? It's Uncle Matt here. Another Titan Tuesday. This one's kind of a bummer, though, because we're recapping the end of the season. The Titans lost to the Ravens on Sunday. We were sadly there live for the event. If you haven't checked it out already, I did a game day vlog. Thank you to the Ravens fans for watching the crap out of that vlog. I've never had an opposing fan base watch my videos so much and comment so much. Of course, I think the Titans helped out with that by pissing them off by dancing on their logo and beating them two straight times. So thanks to the Titans for inciting that. Thanks to the Ravens fans for participating in that. Really nice to get my view numbers up through you guys. Whew, not a fun game. So 2013 final, didn't feel that close. Kind of felt like the Titans were just out of it. You know, we went up 10-0, and then from there, are you not getting enough attention right now? Oli is desperate for attention right now. We went up 10-0, felt like the game plan was going exactly how we wanted it to. You know, when the Titans jump out to a lead, especially against a team like the Ravens, it typically doesn't do well playing from behind. We kind of get going, but it felt like the Ravens made the necessary adjustments, and then the Titans just couldn't string anything together from there on out. And, of course, that Lamar Jackson run, that was a backbreaker. I mean, he's incredibly talented. You expect him to be able to do something insane like that, but gotta look at what happened on that play with Kevin Byard, Kenny Vaccaro. Somebody pointed out Adoree Jackson also on that play. I don't know if it was Adoree Jackson or Kenny Vaccaro that they were talking about, where they said, you know, kind of whiffed and then didn't make much effort to catch back up after he whiffed, but probably to a degree was thinking, oh, you know, we've got more players downfield. Somebody surely will tackle Lamar Jackson. You can't think that way against Lamar Jackson, clearly. Once he's into the open space like that, you can't just expect that somebody's going to tackle him and give up on the play the way some of our defenders did. But that was the backbreaker. That was the game winner ultimately. So we just never could get anything together from there on out. So a lot of the stuff I've listened to, a lot of stuff I've heard, I've talked a lot about how the Titans just kept running into 8-man fronts, just kept pounding Derrick Henry even though it wasn't working. So one thing that was unique, if you haven't watched the vlog yet, we were sitting at the very top of the stadium, literally the very back row you can sit in at Nissan Stadium. And one thing I noticed that I hadn't seen in the past weeks, you know, sitting lower, watching the games on TV, you can kind of see the whole field. Now, not saying that I'm some kind of all 22, watch the whole game, just genius study of the game, but one thing that stuck out to me, and I think this is the key why coming up a good defense, like they're coming up against a good defense like the Ravens, is why we kind of fell apart. Because, you know, going into that game, if you told me before the game Lamar Jackson was going to throw an interception on the first or second drive of the game, Justin Tucker was going to miss field goals, and the Ravens were only going to score 20 points, I would have bet the house on the Titans winning that game, because I even said it in the pregame. I thought if we can hold their team to 20 or so points, we're going to score at least 30, we'll win the game. But that's not how it played out, and I think the Ravens were the first team we've come up against lately that had the defense good enough to expose some of the limitations, some of the issues we have on offense that maybe, you know, a lot of people have been kind of jumping on Arthur Smith this week from the Titans side of things, not happy that he took an interview with the Jaguars that night after the loss. But at the same time, he's trying to advance his career. You know, I think we feel like he's guaranteed he's going to get a head coaching job. But, I mean, you never know. He's got to take the interviews. He's got to do what he's got to do to get his next job. You know, maybe not the Jaguars. Maybe don't interview with the Jaguars the night after our playoff loss. Maybe not that team. I don't know. That's beside the point. A lot of Titans fans have been kind of sour on him, but I think the big thing I learned from that game is he's been able to cover up a lot of issues we should have had offensively that got exposed when we came up against a good defense like the Ravens. Here's what I saw. When we were running play action, when we were running passing plays, we were running a ton of max protection, leaving extra blockers in, and only sending 2 or 3 receivers out on routes. Now, that's probably worked if that's what we've been doing. because we've got A.J. Brown, who's absolutely insane, absolutely talented. It was working early in this game. The Ravens kind of flipped their coverage, adjusted some things to make sure that we couldn't do that. Corey Davis got a little banged up, so he wasn't able to contribute as much as you would expect him to normally contribute. And we kind of just, I think we felt like we had to keep pounding. Ooh, I'm watching a replay of the Manchester United-Burnley game from earlier today, so you might get some weird reactions from me throughout this. I think we thought we had to find a way. We had to keep pounding Derrick Henry, hoping that he'd break off one of those insane Derrick Henry runs that he's done against other 8-man fronts, because we knew we couldn't pass the ball the way we wanted to, because the Ravens had the defense to shut down A.J. Brown when he was our only threat with Corey Davis banged up. And I think it comes back to the injuries that we've had that we've maybe kind of pushed to the side and not been so worried about. Why are we max protecting? Why are we leaving Jonnu Smith in? I think we can track it back. Where did Jonnu Smith's production kind of go off a cliff? Somewhere around the time that we ended up having to play our third string left tackle. So we're bringing him in to pass block more. Fursker, Michael Pruitt, Jeff Swaim, these tight ends who have looked so good in the passing game at times, they're staying in to block more because we have a makeshift, a third string left tackle. Saffold, he still was playing pretty well, but he's been injured for about the last 6 or 7 weeks, so you got to think he's not playing at his highest level. Right tackle, Dennis Kelly's been solid, been consistent, but, to be honest, we would not have drafted a right tackle in the first round if we thought he was the guy we wanted to be our starter throughout the season. That turned out to be a disaster. That's a whole different story. Honestly, we'd be surprised if that guy's even on our roster next year. Not even gonna, he's technically not on the roster right now, so out of sight, out of mind. But, our offensive line maybe wasn't, to have in the run game, obviously great. Had blocked for a 2,000-yard runner. But there's a reason we were doing max protect. There's a reason we were only sending 2 or 3 receivers out into routes. It's because we felt we needed the extra help to help the offensive line out. And that's been fine. A.J. Brown's been able to win a lot of one-on-one matchups. Corey Davis has been able to win a lot of one-on-one matchups. The Ravens' defensive backs were just, too good. Their coaches made the adjustments to make sure they couldn't do that, and we were very one-dimensional. Now, there's another injury I think that factors into that also contributed to why. It's kind of been underrated. I think a lot of Titans fans are sour on this player. Myself, I'm also a little sour on him. That's Adam Humphrey. He is a guy who's supposed to be our, slot receiver, the underneath guy, the possession guy, the guy who just finds the space underneath the coverage, finds the opening. We couldn't get third downs. He's exactly who we needed to have out there to kind of find the open spots in the defense and give Tannehill that little option under where, we don't have the big plays to A.J. Brown every play. Find Adam Humphries underneath for a little short 7-yard pickup and a first down. We didn't have that. That's not Khalif Raymond's game. Khalif Raymond's game is running really fast down the field and hoping to be open if he can. I don't even know the names of half our other receivers that are out there playing, but I think today was the game where it got exposed how bad – or Sunday. It's been 3 days. But this is the game where I think it got exposed how badly not having Taylor Lewan, not having Adam Humphries, really hurt us because – even if you take Taylor Lewan out of the equation, Jonnu Smith, Fursker, our tight ends, they could kind of fill in. They could kind of be that extra third down option that we needed Humphries to be. Okay, flip that. Take Humphries out of the equation. But if we have Taylor Lewan, we don't need the extra help with the blocking. So then the tight ends can become that kind of underneath option, that extra play, that safety net. But they couldn't because they would have to stay in and block. Take Taylor Lewan out of the equation, but put Adam Humphries in. Maybe you also don't have to block as much because you got him. You got the extra dump-off route, that safety net underneath. Take them both out. We've been able to survive. We've been able to make it work without them. But we came up against the best defense we've played in quite a while in the Ravens, and they were able to shut everything down. They put 8 men in the box throughout the day to shut down Derrick Henry. Said, if you can find a way to beat us over the top with your receivers, go for it. And we couldn't. So, hats off to them. I think their coaching staff did the better job of game planning, figuring out what to do. We had some stuff going early on, like I said. A.J. Brown seemed like he was getting the better of the defensive backs, and then they kind of flipped which DB was on his side, and he kind of went quiet after that first drive or so. So hats off to the Ravens. They deserve the win. It's very weird that we can't that was the team that hosts the game when these two teams meet in the playoffs is now 0-5. That's kind of a crazy stat that whoever hosts the playoff game between the Titans and the Ravens always loses. Just kind of wild, but I'm not ready to, say, oh, Lamar finally won a playoff game. He's finally over the hump. This is that. Their defense is great. Defense has kind of gone out of style in the NFL the last few years. If they can shut down some of these high-powered offenses, the Bills, the Chiefs, the way they did the Titans, I think those teams have more weapons than the Titans do. It's going to be a little bit more of a challenge. But, if they can shut those offenses down or slow those offenses down and not make Lamar have to win the games, just let him freestyle, make a few big plays here and there, I think they're fully capable of going on a run here. So don't sleep on the Ravens. I think the Titans may have slept on the Ravens a little bit and it came back to bite them, but it is what it is. We lost. No use crying over spilt milk. I'm kind of excited for that Ravens-Bills game. I think that'll be a really interesting matchup. You've got one of the most exciting offenses in the NFL over the last, 5 or 6 weeks, taking on a team that's really rounded in form and, just showed how good of a defense they are. So it's kind of an old school offense. Oh, gosh. Offense versus defense. Something's got to give type of matchup. Should be very fun. Sucks for the Titans. I think as Titans fans, if we were being realistic, we knew our defense wasn't going to be able to get us as far as we wanted to go. We knew all of our big investments turned out to be bust. Our first-round picks, a disaster. 2 biggest free agent acquisitions in Clowney and Beasley just basically might as well have not been on the team. The biggest, Clowney had his injuries, so it is what it is with him. Beasley, who knows? But by far 2 of the biggest waste of money in Titans history. I'm hard-pressed to think of any ones that would be worse. David Givens comes to mind. Paid big money to him, hoping he'd finally be the wide receiver we always needed on the team, and he just kind of similar to Clowney. His was more injuries than anything else, but he fizzled out and was pretty much out of the league. Titans have a history of signing big-time free agents and then just being done as NFL players once we sign them. I don't know. Have we ever really – we've had a few good ones, but in terms of big-time free agents that we really went big for, has there ever been worked out? Kevin Mawe is one, but I don't know that you would consider him a big-time free agent. It's not like we broke the bank to bring him in. There's been some good free agent acquisitions, but in terms of these big marquee signings, anytime we've had one like that, it just doesn't seem like it's ever worked out. And it seems like more times than none, that was kind of the end of those players' NFL careers. I think back to the early days, Yancey Thigpen, Carl Pickens. Just those. Bleh. But that's a good transition to what are the Titans going to do this offseason. It's going to be very interesting because I think the Titans have definitely made investments to where we were in a 2-year window where these 2 years are the years we're looking to compete, we're looking to win. If you look at the contracts that we gave to Derrick Henry and Ryan Tannehill, they both got, I believe, 4-year deals that were realistically 2-year deals because they're very backloaded. There's easy ways to get out of them after 2 years, which would be after next season. So next season is a huge season in terms of what the Titans have been building towards because, if things go well, if it looks like we've got something rolling, then we can obviously keep Henry, keep Tannehill, try to do a few other things to keep the stretch going. But things go badly after next season, it could be a blow things up and start from scratch type of deal. So we've got to figure out what we got to do this offseason. We've got a ton of free agents that we're going to have to decide what we want to do with. The biggest ones are probably Jonnu Smith, Jayon Brown, Daquan Jones. It's a weird situation where our pass rush was bad, our defense was bad, but you kind of got to restock a little bit. You got to bring some people back because if you just let everybody go, you can't just completely flip the entire team. It's almost impossible with the way the salary cap works to just completely dump and flip everybody else. Clowney's a free agent. I don't expect there's any chance he'll be back. Gostkowski's a free agent. I don't know if we want to go through the ringer. He ended up being semi-reliable. It wasn't the disaster it looked like it was going to be in that first game against the Broncos. He kind of settled in and started doing okay. I don't know what his salary number would be. I don't know if he wants to run it back and try to kick again. I don't know if the Titans want to go back into the kicker bingo lottery machine to just try and randomly find another kicker. Yeah, it's interesting. Those are kind of the big ones. Corey Davis, obviously. I forgot to mention Corey Davis. Malcolm Butler is under contract, but he was in kind of a similar situation where I mentioned with Henry and Tannehill next year, where this is kind of the year where he's going to have a bigger number next year on his salary number. So I think a lot of people went into the season based on his performances expecting him to either be cut or have his salary restructured after this season. And I think he kind of knew that. He kind of played as though he was in a contract season. He was probably our best defensive player this season. I don't think without a doubt. But is that a salary you can afford to bring back when you've got Adoree Smith, Kristen Fulton, Desmond King is another player you'd like to probably get under a long-term contract. Malcolm Butler is probably our best defensive player, but with what we've got at the position, I don't know if it makes sense to keep him around at the salary number he'll be at. Can we restructure that, bring him back for cheaper? Who knows? A lot of interesting decisions to be made. The biggest thing, obviously the Titans have to find a way to get a pass rush. That was just abysmal. We got 5 sacks in the Ravens game, which was like we had 14 on the regular season and 5 in the Ravens game. But I think that was more of a product of Lamar, the way they played. He's trying to make things happen. He's moving around a little bit more than a lot of quarterbacks. We played a lot of quarterbacks who get the ball out of their hands fast, whether it's short routes, dump routes, stuff like that. But Lamar, he was running around. He was trying to make things happen. I think at least 3 or 4 of the sacks we got were him trying to make something happen. It just didn't come off type of sacks. So we've got to find a way to get a pass rusher in. I don't know what the free agent market looks like in that regard. I don't know what the draft's going to look like in that regard. Jonnu Smith and Corey Davis are both interesting because, like I said, I think we need weapons to keep the offense running the way we want it to run. But, I don't think the Titans are going to be willing to pay what some other teams will be willing to pay for Corey Davis, because I think we don't want to pay him number 1 wide receiver money, knowing we're going to have to give that type of money to A.J. Brown in 2 or 3 years. So I have a hard time seeing, unless the market is just down because of the COVID and the financial stuff that comes with that, I don't see a way we can bring him back, because there's definitely going to be teams that will pay him number 1 wide receiver money. So that's going to be something the Titans are going to have to figure out. Adam Humphries might be cut because he's just too injury prone. The productivity doesn't match his contract. He's a player we need. He's a type of player we need. But the amount of time he's been out injured since he came to the Titans compared to what he's getting paid to be on the team doesn't really add up. Yeah, Two-Tone Zone, tighten up, brother, to you too. Thanks for checking in. I don't know. I have a hard time seeing Adam Humphries being on the team next year, but, we can't lose Adam Humphries. We can't lose Corey Davis. We can't lose Jonnu Smith. To keep rolling, to get ourselves where we want to be and take the next step as a team, some of those players have to come back, and or we have to find ways to replace them in free agency or the draft or something like that. I would expect Jonnu to be the most likely to get re-signed out of that, because I don't know what the market's going to be for him. I think he's shown flashes, but I don't think he's shown enough that another team's going to overpay to get him to come. So I think we can probably get him back at a reasonable deal, a reasonable number. The other two, if there was a way to restructure Adam Humphries and get him for cheaper, I'd take it, because he's just not on the field enough to earn the money we've been paying him. And like I said with Corey Davis, I would highly doubt there's a way we can bring him back, because I just think there's going to be other teams that are going to be more desperate and are going to pay more than what we'd be willing to pay for him. But the Jayon Brown one is interesting to me. I was actually telling Kyle, who was in the vlog with me the other day, after the game, we were talking about some of this stuff, and I said I think the Jayon Brown decision is kind of a twofold one, because you've also got Rashaan Evans, our other starting middle linebacker, who's going to be up for a contract renewal or be a free agent after next season. I doubt they both end up being with the team long term. Just doesn't seem like that would be feasible cap-wise. So you're kind of deciding with Jayon Brown almost who do you want between him and Rashaan Evans, because I think if we re-sign Jaylen Brown this year, it makes it less likely that we re-sign Rashaan Evans after next season. So it's kind of a twofold decision there of based on the seasons they've had, I would take Jaylen Brown over Rashaan Evans. Rashaan Evans was kind of a liability at certain points throughout the season with him not being able to keep his cool. His production overall kind of dropped once Jaylen wasn't playing alongside of him. It's not the same position, but if you're looking at the linebacker room, you're also going to be coming up on having to decide if you want to re-sign Harold Landry in the next season or two. So how you allocate your money amongst the linebackers is going to come up for debate. I would bring back Jaylen Brown and plan on Rashaan Evans not being a part of the team going forward, but I'm not a general manager. I'm just a dumb fan who watches these games and tries to figure out what's going on the best I can. But a lot of interesting decisions coming up for the team. I don't understand the salary cap enough to honestly know what's going to happen. I know who I usually re-sign on Madden. That's about the extent of what I know about the salary cap, and that's just a stupid video game, so it's not exactly the same as real life. Up until this season, J-Rob has been incredible. The way he's built the roster, the decisions he's made, the signings he's made, things like that. Everything he tried this year went wrong, though. But I'm going to give him a break. I'm going to give him a pass because I think we all know this has been like the weirdest year in modern history. So, good rip by Bruno Fernandez right there. Whew, almost got a goal. It's been the weirdest year in recorded history, so I don't think we can give J-Rob a pass on this one. But how he bounces back, how he adjusts to the mistakes that were made this year, how he tries to fix them going forward, it's going to be huge. I think that also goes to the coaching staff. The defensive coordinator situation has, been puzzling all year long. I think everybody knows that we didn't officially declare we had a defensive coordinator in the last couple of days since the loss. Vrabel started to suggest that Bowen actually was the defensive coordinator. They just didn't have a title, which is kind of weird. I don't know what the logic is there. Like, Vrabel's been very loyal to his staff. Look at Arthur Smith. That was a guy who was promoted from within. When LaFleur left to take the Packers job, Vrabel didn't go out and try to find a big name, established offensive coordinator. He trusted a guy he had there in staff that he knew. Obviously, that worked out very well. I kind of almost wonder if he didn't officially promote Bowen to defensive coordinator because he knew or had a suspicion that it wasn't quite the right time, and that if he made him the defensive coordinator this season and things didn't go well, he might have to then make the difficult decision of firing Shane Bowen. I think the way things stand now, he can kind of protect Bowen and say, he can kind of put the blame on himself, say, I was realistically a defensive coordinator. Bowen was calling the plays, but I was the one who was drawing things up. He can maybe go outside, find somebody from the outside, bring a defensive coordinator in to kind of clean things up, keep Bowen on the staff as his role as linebacker coach. So maybe there was a degree of protecting Bowen to why he never officially promoted him to defensive coordinator this year. Who's to say, who's to know? I'm sure we'll find out a lot more going forward. And with Arthur Smith, I think it's pretty clear he's interviewed for every open job in the NFL. It'd be very shocking at this point if he doesn't get one of those positions. So we're going to have to do something there. I would expect, I don't know who it would be. I don't know what the standings are amongst the current offensive staff, but like I said, Vrabel's been a very loyal guy to his staff. He's been very consistent. My guess is it's somebody that's already on the staff, gets promoted up to offensive coordinator, or maybe Vrabel just goes Belichick and he's just going to do the whole thing, and there's going to be people that are doing things on the side, and he doesn't have anybody with the actual titles. He's just running the show. Hopefully not. But I don't know enough about who's where in the – is that a handball? Doesn't look like it. I don't know about the hierarchy of the offensive staff, like who would be next in line should Arthur Smith leave for a head coaching position, but I would expect Vrabel will promote from within. That's what he's kind of done previously, so I would expect that to be the pattern going forward. But it'll be an interesting offseason because there's definitely, there's a core roster there that can be built upon, that can win a Super Bowl. I think we've seen that the last 2 seasons. I think anybody who's seen this team knows what needs to be done. Like I said, I don't know the full implications, full ramifications, full structure of the salary cap to what can be done. I don't know what players are going to be available in free agency that we could potentially bring in. I don't know what the draft's going to play out like, who's supposed to be the top prospects in terms of the positions that we need help at. So a lot of things are going to be sorted out over the next months as we move into the season. Be watching that carefully and closely. But unfortunately, the season's over. No more Titans games to go to vlog, to watch, to get unreasonably angry about. So my mental health should be a little bit better, at least in that regard. Except I'll still be betting on and gambling on all the games that are still going on. So that'll probably drive me crazy. Had a big weekend last weekend. The key was I got Tampa Bay -7 right when that line went live. I was not in the best state of mind when it went live, and I bet way too much money on it, but it turned out that worked out really well for me, so I had a successful weekend because of that. The rest of my picks were not great, but that one big winner made up for everything else. But let's actually take a quick look. Let's look at what the weekend looks like. Just my initial thought on this weekend is I have no idea. Like, the last weekend seemed pretty easy to predict, and then everything kind of went off the rails. A lot of underdogs covering, a lot of underdogs winning outright, but let's just look at where the lines are for this weekend with the matchups, see what looks good. All right, we got Rams, Green Bay. Green Bay is a 6.5-point favorite. Burnley almost scored. Green Bay seems like a safe bet. They've been rolling throughout the end of the regular season. But that Rams defense, man, they've just, shutting people down, doing just enough to help their team get over the line. What's Jared Goff's status? How healthy is he? That's kind of a weird one. I would lean Green Bay right now, but that's 6.5 seems like an awful big number after every underdog basically covered over Wildcard weekend. Baltimore 2, Buffalo. I would take Buffalo there. If that went up to Buffalo 3, I would go the other way and go Baltimore, but 2 is tight. Baltimore showed a lot this last weekend. Like I said, I would not be surprised if they go on a run, make it to the Super Bowl even, but KC -10 over the Browns. I'd leave Browns there because the Chiefs haven't covered all season. They've just done just enough to get through these games. Their defense, I don't know, seems like it's not maybe as good as it was last year. Offense is having to do a lot more. But they were kind of that team in the playoffs last year. They went down 2 scores in like every single playoff game and then just all of a sudden would turn it on and go nuts. We saw that firsthand as Titans fans. So seems like too big of a number there for the way KC's kind of just been doing just enough to get by there. So I would also lean Cleveland there. New Orleans -3 seems like an easy pick because they've just smashed Tampa Bay 2 times during the regular season. But the fact that it's only -3 makes me a little suspicious there because, you just destroyed a team twice already this season. Feels like you should be a bigger favorite than -3 playing that team at home. New Orleans host it. New Orleans -3 seems like a safe bet, but the fact that it's only -3 seems a little fishy to me, so I don't know. I don't have anything logged for this weekend yet. Like last weekend, I jumped all over Tampa Bay -7. That turned out to be very successful for me. I went ahead and went with a Tampa Bay Buffalo teaser early on that brought those down to reasonable numbers. That one won. That was another one I put way too much money on, but it paid off. So those 2 bets were very successful for me last week. Made everything else just kind of not really matter for the most part. Looking over this, I don't really have anything that jumps out to me that makes me feel like I need to be on it right now. Most of these actually, if they're at where they're at, I can make a play. But if they move one way or the other, I feel a lot more comfortable. So I'm just going to sit and watch, see what they do. It's always good to kind of wait also because, there's a lot of good boost, a lot of opportunities to get some better lines, better boost from the different sports books that they offer throughout the week. So I don't really have any picks right now. I have, it's too early to – I don't like any of these enough to jump on them right now. So, and also another thing is, I think we saw with Cleveland, we've seen throughout the season, you never know what's going to happen this year. You could have half a team out of nowhere with the Coco. So because none of these look that obvious, that easy, just crying out like, take me now. I'm not going to take anything tonight, or I'm going to wait, see how things play out, see if any weird stuff develops throughout the week. I'll definitely play something on all 4 games because with no emotional investment left in any of these teams, I got to do something to make these games a little bit more interesting for me. So I always tweet out, or I try to, sometimes I forget, but I try to tweet out whatever I'm going with, whatever I'm picking, for better or worse. Not that I have any kind of great insight or great knowledge on this. Not some sharp that you should follow. And if anything, you should probably fade me because I lose more than I win. But for whatever reason, I seem to hit well on my bigger bets. Like I've been very successful profit-wise since we got legalized sports betting in Tennessee. My record has not been good, but I've hit on some big bets that have made me in plus money consistently throughout of it. So whatever. Don't know how that's happened. I don't really know how I managed to pull that off. But if you want my picks, I usually tweet them out if I can remember to do that. I'm on Twitter at uncle_mad with 2 Ds. If you're watching this on YouTube, if you're watching this on Twitter, you obviously have already found me. But if you haven't found me, go follow me on Twitter at uncle_mad with 2 Ds. I put all my picks out there. Got a ton of vlogs going back from the game day experiences. If you haven't watched the one from the Ravens game Sunday, go back and watch that. I think the main reason so many Ravens fans watch that one is because they wanted to see a Titans fan like depressed and sad and crying or something like that. No secret. I edited that blog after the game. So if I had done anything where I was upset or crying or having a meltdown, I would have put it in there. That certainly might have been more interesting for Ravens fans, but it's not something I want to put out of myself on there. I actually didn't vlog anything like that, though, because by the time the game was out of hand, I didn't feel like filming. I didn't want to film anything, so I'm not going to film myself having a meltdown. That would just be stupid. But subscribe to the YouTube channel so you get updated when new stuff comes out. Like I said, my last few live streams, I got this microphone for my wife. It's been pretty cool. I've enjoyed playing with it. So I'm doing more live streams now just to get to play with the new toy my wife bought me. But I think the dog needs to be let outside. He's been bugging me the entire time throughout the stream. If you watch, thanks for watching. Feel free to shoot me some comments on Twitter, comments down below if you're watching this on YouTube about what you thought or anything, additional thoughts with the things I threw out there, my thoughts about the Titans and the season in general. But just the ramblings of a sad, broken fan who now has nothing to look forward to until, August of next year. Holy crap. Thanks for tuning in.